qualification in the chanting. We should control our senses also. He's so merciful. This form of the Lord, He delivers all living entities, even the animals. No one is excluded. He gives His mercy to everyone. Lochan Das Thakur, he regrets it because he's still attached to pure sense gratification. He has no attraction for this Krishna consciousness. Therefore Yamaraj, punishes those who are attached to sense gratification, of course, is punishing me by not allowing me to be attracted to this movement. Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, when he was in Atlanta, in 1975 or something, he said, every day we should sing this song. Every day we should sing this song in Atlanta for Gaunitai deities. Prabhupada was on a tour and he was traveling from Mexico to Venezuela and went to Miami, then Baltimore and Atlanta. Everywhere they had lovely, beautiful Gaunitai deities, and everywhere Prabhupada went, he said, these are the most beautiful Gaunitai. Next time please say the same thing. Especially in Atlanta, he was very absorbed in ecstasy. He requested the devotees to sing this bhajan for Gaunitai every day. So if you have a songbook, please gather around. There's only 2 or 3 copies here. Anyone else got their own songbook? You can try to follow this. No, some of you may know it. If you have a mobile phone with a database on board, you can look on your mobile. If you've got the database, you'll find it at Sri Sri Gaurnichananda Daya Lochan Das Thakur. Or usually call it Paramakaruna. It's towards the end, it's songs of the other Vaishnavas or other bhajans or something like that. Sri Sri Gaurnichananda Daya is the title. You find it, Big Jivanand? What page number, please? 109. 109. If you have a songbook, ladies, please share. Don't just hold it to yourself, Mataji. You have to try to share with the other ladies. Come forward so that maybe other ladies can see a little bit. I don't think it's in the little one. We just sing it through once and we'll chant Hare Krishna. Parama Karuna Purina Taiva Chandra Parama Karuna Purina Taiva Chandra Savadhara Sarashiromani Eva Shiromani Keva Ananda Bhajo Bhajo Hai Chaitanya Nitoye Sugita Vishwasta Kori Bhajo Bhajo Hai Chaitanya Nitoye Sugita Vishwasta Kori Ishayachariha, Serase Majiha, Mukhe Bhavani Bhavani. Ishayachariha, Serase Majiha, Mukhe Bhavani Bhavani. Ekone Bahe, Tribhuvane Hai, Emunna Doya Thank you. Pashupaki Jure Pasharagiri Shunijana Pashupaki Jure Pasharagiri Shunijana Sahe Maria Sile Poniha Epade Nahilo Sahe Maria Sile Poniha Epade Nahilo Apana Karama Mujai Shamana Koye Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama Rama All glories to the Son of the Lord, glories to Shiva, Rango glories to Shiva. Krishna. Hey, like a chair. Are you okay out there? Are you okay out there?
Good. If you speak a little louder, it would be nicer.
I have a microphone. I'm just asking if you're okay.
I'm good.
Sitting out the back there.
There's another chair.
You were like Lord Chaitanya amongst the Mayavadis there. All the Mayavadis go start at the back there. Come, please come. You should hear some Vedanta. Does anyone have any tissues by any chance for blowing things like noses?
I'll get something from Govinda's.
Oh, thank you very much, Parvati.
It's a clean right.
Doesn't say, I'm not sure what we'll get from Govinda's. Maybe something with some samosas or something. Thank you. Okay, thank you. This looks like a long-lasting tissue. We're going to have a big collection of tissues very shortly. Huh?
3+.
3+, my goodness. Powerful tissues. Hare Krishna. I will keep it for another blow. Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpatrubhyascha kripasindhivya vichapatisam bhavayavyaveshasaya brahma. Om Jnanatimanasya Dharminashvakaya Chakshurmalatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Shripitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamayam Dadati Shvapadantikam Vandiham Shri Guru Shri Dapatakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sarvajatam Sabhavana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijam Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Adana Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakana Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostite Tapta Kanchana Gaurani Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishwahanu Sutidevi Pranamami Namadevi Vanchakalpatrubhyascha Kripasindhubhyacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Rama, Rama Hare Krishna. So we want Bhagavad Gita's armed with Bhagavad Gita's stand and fight. You ready? That's what Krishna is telling Arjuna. Oh wow, this is really fancy ones here. Wow. Special ones. Thank you very much, Parvati. This Bhagavad Gita class has been going on here for how long now?
13 years.
13 years. Well, Parvati resurrected the class here 13 years ago, right? And without, well, sometimes some other program is there, but basically it's been going on every day since then.
This is the 10th time we're going through the Gita now.
10th time through the Gita. Imagine if you've been here 13 years and been here for every class, you would have gone through the Bhagavad Gita 10 times just by being here now. Amazing, huh? You must know it off by heart now.
Now my mind is like a sieve.
Like a what?
Like a sieve.
Like a sieve.
I've got to hear it every day like everybody else.
You only let the nectar through. Keep all the dirt out. Yes, never mind, even if we can't remember it all, just the purifying effect of hearing it is...
I've got the gist of it.
Excuse me?
I've got the gist of it.
The gist of it. I'm sure you've got more than the gist of it. You're realizing, the main thing is the realization. The realization of the message of Bhagavad Gita. So this evening, we're reading from the 2nd chapter. I believe it's text 34 to 37, is that correct?
Correct.
I will have to read through the verses. I'm notoriously famous at not getting past the first line. So we better read all 4 verses before we start, I think. Because probably tomorrow's speaker has already been told which verse he's speaking on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have to read all 4 verses. And which one do you want us to repeat? Which one shall we repeat? The 4th one? Should we do the 4th one? I'll read through the other ones first and repeat the 4th one all together. Is that okay? Do you agree on that or not?
Sure.
Yeah, it's okay. It'll make it easier for me. Unusual. I'm going to have to adjust this. I can't see a thing with this microphone here. I'm going to pretend to put it down and kind of have a thing up. It's right in between my eyes and the book. This is better. That's excellent. Thank you. I'll try to read. My eyes are somehow fading out. Old age. Akirting chapi bhutani katayishanti te vyalam sambhavitasya chakitir maranat atirichyate. Krishna is speaking to Arjuna. He's already explained jnana, knowledge, in the earlier verses, between verses 12, 13, up to 29, up to 30 in fact. He's described in brief, some detail, the nature of the soul and the difference between the soul and the body. Based on this understanding, on this science, he's trying to help Arjuna to overcome his bereavement and his bewilderment. Arjuna is very bewildered as to what to do. So, and what will be, say, that which will make happiness, that which will bring peace in society, that which will bring society in order. He's very bewildered. So Krishna first of all explains the science of the self. If we don't know who we are, we can't really talk about happiness, self-satisfaction, and so on, or peace. So that's the first thing. He describes jnana. And in the next section, which is, we're right in the middle of it right now, he's talking about basically karma. Basically karma. It's not even karma yoga. Neither was it jnana yoga. It's just jnana, and now we have karma. Foundation of human society, you could say, based upon this understanding of jnana's knowledge of the goal of life, ultimate knowledge, you could say, but at least knowledge of the self. We're not this body. And in this section, knowledge of what proper action should be there in human life. Karma literally means activities according to religious principle. People interpret it in many different ways, and it's used in many different ways, but strictly speaking is activity according to religious principles. Vikarma is the opposite, and basically modern society is not even karma, it's vikarma. The activity itself is vikarma. It's not following religious practice. It's man-made speculation or something like that. So we'll read the translation. This is Krishna speaking to Arjuna on the basis of his duty, karma. Prescribed duties are within the realm of, you could say, karma, proper action. People will always speak of your infamy. He's referring to Arjuna declines to fight. Arjuna was, basically, you may know, first chapter and the first 6 verses of this chapter, Arjuna is resigned to the idea of not fighting. I can't do it, I give up. He threw down his Gandiva bow, said, I will not fight. And of course then Krishna. Arjuna did one very important verse, Kapanido Shopa Tasava, Prishtamikam Dharmasarudi Chita Yashtresha Nishita Brutame, Shashashtiham Shadimantam Papanam. Arjuna, this is where the Bhagavad Gita instruction really kicks off, because Arjuna placed himself in the position of a student, of a disciple, of Shishya. Now I'm confused, he said, about my duty. Due to miserly weakness. Miserly weakness means his identification with the body, basically. Due to miserly weakness. Now in this condition, I'm asking you, Krishna, please tell me what is best for me. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Kindly instruct me. So at this point, of course there's 1 or 2 more verses, but basically from there on, Krishna then begins to instruct Arjuna. The first thing he says, in Prabhupada's own words, you damn fool, Arjuna. That's what Prabhupada said. He said, you are a damn fool. You're speaking like a learned man, because you don't know what you're talking about. From the material point of view, Arjuna was speaking very nicely. He put forward arguments of compassion, fears of sinful reaction, doubts about the outcome, whether it would be favorable or not, concerns over whether anyone would be happy about this, dreadfully concerned about fighting with his superiors, and very intelligently concerned that the society would become degraded. And there will be what's known as Vana Sankara, which means unwanted population. It's not just because, oh my goodness, I didn't want to have a kid and the kid came. That's not the exact meaning of unwanted population. It is also. But it means basically a population where there is no proper spiritual direction, education. Children are born of in an improper way. No proper sacrifices are performed. No samskaras or purificatory rites are performed for the conception of a child. Children are born in the modes of passion and ignorance. Parents are lusty or intoxicated or ignorant as to what's all about. So that's his fear. That thus society will become degraded, women will not be protected if the leaders of society, the males, are all killed in this battle, basically. He's afraid that the women will become unprotected and exploited, as we see in modern society. And he would, because that means that there will be children born improperly, and the quality of humanity will become degraded. So he had all these concerns, and not bad, but Krishna has a higher purpose, not just to try to make material life I have to say, seemingly very nice. Even that, in this section, Krishna's explained to Arjuna, if you, materially speaking, if you're concerned, you should still fight. So in this verse, he's giving another argument. People will always speak of your infamy. Don't forget, Arjuna is a Kshatriya. Kshatriya, the kings, different people are affected differently. But for a king to be defamed is a fate worse than death. You can see in the Krishna book, like Rukmi, for instance, when Krishna almost shaved him up. He didn't quite make it, but he cut off his hair, bits here and there and everywhere. And he was humiliated. It's a fate worse than death. They just feel like dying. Or Jarasandha, after being defeated by Balaram and Krishna, Thura. Jarasandha was completely humiliated. Because to be defeated and to go away without being killed is a great disgrace for a Kshatriya. This is one of the arguments also behind the scenes in regards to Arjuna. If he were to leave the battlefield, as this verse says here, for a respectable person, dishonor is worse than death. It's worse than death. I can't bear it. Kshatriya to be dishonored. Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, both as friend and philosopher to Arjuna, Lord Krishna now gives his final judgment regarding Arjuna's refusal to fight. The Lord says, Arjuna, if you leave the battlefield before the battle even begins, people will call you a coward. Naturally they'll call him a coward. How will they understand his reasoning? And if you think that people may call you bad names, but that you will save your life by fleeing the battlefield, then my advice is that you do better to die in the battle. Just turning away from his duty. For a respectable man like you, ill fame is worse than death. So you should not flee for fear of your life. Better to die in the battle. That will save you from the ill fame of misusing my friendship and from losing your prestige in society. So the final judgment of the Lord was for Arjuna to die in the battle and not withdraw. Prabhupada also, you can say, he said he wanted to die on the battlefield of preaching, isn't it? He said, I don't want to simply die passing stool and urine, I want to die on the battlefield of preaching. He left his body here in this very building next door. But he was in the fire of preaching right to the end. So the devotee never stops. His fighting is a little different. His fighting is with, you can say, with philosophy and devotion. Next verse. Bhayadvanad paratam mangshanti tam mahavadah yesham cha tam bhavumato budvayasyasi agavam. The great generals who have highly esteemed your name and fame will think that you have left the battlefield out of fear only, and thus they will consider you insignificant. Now, if you remember, Arjuna is also representing a great lineage, a great family and dynasty. The whole lineage, the whole family dynasty, everything would be basically disgraced by Arjuna's behavior. Just like in any family, the behavior of one side is misbehaves, it affects the whole family. Lord Krishna continued to give his verdict to Arjuna. Do not think that the great generals like Duryodhana, Karna and other contemporaries will think that you have left the battlefield out of compassion for your brothers and grandfather. They will think that you have left out of fear for your life, and thus their high estimation of your personality will go to hell. Next verse, we'll read the next 2 verses now. And we'll try to speak something. Avachavadamscha bahun vadishanti tavaita nindantastava samartyam titodukattaram kim. Your enemies will describe you in many unkind words and scorn your ability. What could be more painful for you? Purport. Lord Krishna was astonished in the beginning at Arjuna's uncalled for plea for compassion, and he described his compassion as befitting the non-Aryans, the uncivilized society. Now, in so many words, he has proved his statements against Arjuna's so-called compassion. We'll see that one by one, Krishna, 3rd chapter, next chapter, which expands on this section of Bhagavad Gita, 3rd chapter particularly expands on this section, draws it into yoga, not just karma, in other words, connecting it with the Supreme also, or for a higher purpose, other than just material. There also he continues to defeat the arguments of Arjuna. Bhagavad Gita is, you can say, the practice of hearing Bhagavad Gita submissively, and what to speak of applying it, is directed towards removing our doubts, removing our fears, our illusions. So Krishna with his words is killing, with his bow and arrow we can say he's killing, physically speaking, he's killing our doubts, with his arrows of knowledge. Next verse. Atova prapshasi svargam jitva va bokshase mahim tasmadutishta konteya yudaya kritanishkayaha. O son of Kunti, either you will be killed on the battlefield and attain the heavenly planets, or you will conquer and enjoy the earthly kingdom. Therefore get up with determination and fight. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Well, we're going to chant together, aren't we? Okay, let's chant together. Please repeat. Hataha. This is number 37. Va prapshasi svargam jitva va bokshase mahim tasmad utishta kaunteya yudhaya kritanishkayaha atova prapshasi svargam jitva va bokshase mahim tasmad utishta kaunteya yudhaya kritanishkayaha tato va prapsyasi svargam jitva va bokshase mahim tasmad utishta kaunteya yudhaya kritanishkayaha tato va prapsyasi svargam jitva va bokshase mahim tasmad utishta kaunteya yudhaya kritanishkayaha
atova prapsyasi swargam vava bokshase mahim
jitva va bokshase mahim
tasmat utishta kaunteya
yudhaya kritanishkayaha
Atova prapsyasi svargam
jitva va bokshase mahim
जित्वा भोक्ष्यसे महीम् तस्मादुत्तिष्ठ कौन्तेय युधय कृतनिश्चयः
हतो वा प्राप्स्यसि स्वर्गम् जित्वा वा भोक्ष्यसे महीम् तस्मात् उत्तिष्ठ कौन्तेय युद्धाय कृतनिश्चयः
अतो वा प्राप्स्यसि स्वर्गम् जित्वा वा भोक्ष्यसे महीम् तस्मादुत्तिष्ठ कौन्तेय युद्धाय कृतनिश्चयः अतो वा प्राप्स्यसि स्वर्गम् जित्वा वा भोक्ष्यसे महीम् तस्मात् उत्तिष्ठ कौन्तेय युद्धाय कृतनिश्चयः
हतो वा प्राप्स्यसि स्वर्गम् जित्वा वा भोक्ष्यसे महीम् तस्मादुत्तिष्ठ कौन्तेय युद्धाय कृतनिश्चयः
Hataha, being killed. Va, either. Prapsyasi, you gain. Svargam, the heavenly kingdom. Jitva, by conquering. Va, or. Bokshase, you enjoy. Mahim, the world. Tasmat, therefore. Utishta, get up. Konteya, O son of Kunti. Yudhaya, to fight. Krita, determined. Nishchayaha, in certainty. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. O son of Kunti, either you will be killed on the battlefield and attain the heavenly planets, or you will conquer and enjoy the earthly kingdom. Therefore get up with determination and fight. Purport. Even though there was no certainty of victory for Arjuna's side, he still had to fight. For even being killed there, he could be elevated into the heavenly planets. It's a win-win situation. Devotional service, of course, is definitely a win-win situation. More than that, can't go wrong. There's no loss whatsoever. Maybe a little tough sometimes. It was tough for Arjuna. Faced with his family members, his gurus, his friends, and so many other countless people practically assembled there, and it's quite natural, Prabhupada says, for a devotee, and maybe later verse here, soft-hearted devotee naturally feels he doesn't want to be a part of killing, doesn't want to be a part of such an activity of war. It's, of course, nowadays, I don't know at this minute, but many wars have been going on, but they're not based on the same principle. This war is based on a slightly different principle. The whole point of this section is of a different principle. It's not just to motivate Arjuna to fight so that we can win. Arjuna, if you don't fight, we might not win the battle. No. As it says here, win or lose, you gain. That's not the point. The point which Arjuna, or Krishna rather, is trying to emphasize to Arjuna is the purpose of human life. Practically speaking, the Varna ashram system, the Vedic system, is like a trick. Prabhupada describes it sometimes as like tricking a child who doesn't want to take medicine. Not even children, even adults sometimes. You give it to them in a sugar candy or something like that. You have to coat it so it's a little attractive. So the Vedic yogis, for instance, if you're born of prescribed duties, we can read in the 3rd chapter the importance of prescribed duties. We'll get onto that in a minute. But basically speaking, is ultimately to perform sacrifice for Lord Vishnu. They may be thinking that let's do this so that we can go to heaven and enjoy, and if our results of our good activities are finished, we'll come back here and again we'll do the same thing and go back again. They may think like that, but if properly done, under the proper direction, the Varna ashram system, the worship of Lord Vishnu is at the center, and gradually such conditioned, materially conditioned souls will be elevated. That's the idea of the Vedic system. The Vedas emanate from the Lord. They come from Him. Sacrifices come from Him. Prescribed duties come from Him. We just, whether we know it or not, if somebody is in that system, there's some connection there. It's not just material, although the motivation may be material. It's this one here. He's done a lot of service on this. Let's see if that works. So, yeah, this is the purpose of human life, is slow but sure process. Vedic system. Now Arjuna, next chapter we'll see, he's a very important person. He's Shrestha. And famous verse in the next chapter, most of you have heard it but not know it. Yad yadacharti Shreshtas tate tatat evetarojana siyat pramanam kurute lokas tadanivartate. That whatever a great man does, common men follow in their footsteps. Whatever standard he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. 3rd chapter revolves around that verse of the importance of performing one's prescribed duty. That itself is a sacrifice. Human life is meant for that sacrifice. Nowadays, people may say that I'm doing my duty, but it's not necessarily prescribed. Prescribed duty according to the 4th chapter, Krishna explained, Chaturvanya maya shishtam gunakarma vibhava jahala. According to the modes of nature which we acquire, there are different activities, different ashrams, or orders of life, which are according to one's nature. One's activities naturally according to one's nature. The Vedic system was very much emphasized, placed upon finding out what was the proper engagement for a human being according to their nature. Not according to the need, emergency maybe, but not normally. Not according to your whim, not according to economic pressure, according to the fashion or the, what's the thing of the day. No, but according to the nature, because by performing one's duty according to one's nature in the Varnashram system, one can gradually become elevated. And Krishna explains that even the realized souls, those who have transcended, the process is to help us to transcend. Even those who have transcended, they still act like ordinary people in order to show others how to become elevated. So if Arjuna were to give up his prescribed duty as Kshatriya, Kshatriya has a duty to perform. In times of need they have to fight. They have to protect the citizens. He had his duty to perform. So if he gave up his duty, that example would, so to speak, disrupt the whole of society. And he would also be the loser. Not just because he's being made, spoken ill of, ill fame, etc., but he's given up his duty. In 11th canto, Krishna explains to Uddhava that piety, the one who is steady in their prescribed duty, he's describing piety and impiety. What is proper behavior and improper behavior for human beings. Because conditioned souls have to know these things. Otherwise we'll be more entangled, become more implicated. He said that one who is steady in his prescribed duty, steadiness in one's prescribed duty is known as piety, whereas deviation from one's duty is called impiety. This has thus been ascertained by these examples what is piety and impiety. So for Arjuna to leave the battlefield would come under the category of papa, or impiety, sinful activity. A man is basically judged by their activities in his lifetime. One who behaves properly, it said, according to their position, lives forever. Their name lives forever. They set an example for others to follow. That's the important thing, is to set the example. That's the whole structure of the Vedic culture, is to create an atmosphere, and in our own Krishna consciousness movement, maybe in a slightly different way, but the principle is the same, to create example, an atmosphere, a circumstance where people can connect, where people can actually take part knowingly or unknowingly and gradually become purified. So for Arjuna, of course Krishna's using him as, you can say, an example. He's a pure devotee of the Lord. He's voluntarily taking this position. And Krishna, as Prabhupada says, you teach the daughter through the daughter-in-law, through the daughter. The mother doesn't directly instruct the daughter-in-law, but she teaches the daughter-in-law through the daughter. So through Arjuna, Krishna is teaching us not to walk away, not to leave our duty. As Swadharma, there are two, Swadharma means prescribed duty. There are two kinds of Swadharma. For those who are on the realized transcendental platform, there's constitutional, eternal, pleasing Krishna. We see Bhagavad Gita ends with that point, surrender to me, give up all the materialistic Swadharmas, duties, surrender to me completely. But for those who are not transcendental, the performance of duties, prescribed duties in this world according to one's nature is required, traditionally. This is the system. Ideally they go together. How one ascertains one's position in society, of course everything was geared around that. Astrologically, watching the inclinations of a child, noting the type of association that they're naturally inclined towards, seeing what makes them happy. All these things and others taken into account to try to easily ascertain the ideal situation for a child to be trained so that they could actually perfect their human life, or at least progress in their human life. The Vedic system was developed like that. So if Arjuna breaks this train or this line, you'll be doing a great disservice. Instead of being a service, instead of freeing from sinful reactions, you will be the cause of sinful reactions. It's considered, we read in the next chapter also, Arjuna asked the question, what is it that causes a man to act sinfully, even as if against his own will? The whole chapter is directed towards performing one's duty. There's nothing about sex life. Most people think it's sex. Krishna says, Kama Esha Krodha Esha Rajaguna Samudbhava Mahashama Mata Vidya Ihavarina. It is lust only, Arjuna, which, born of contact with the mode of passion, and later transforms into wrath. And this lust is the all-devouring sinful enemy of the world. And what he's referring to, that lust is to deviate from one's prescribed duty. That is lust. We've already deviated from our transcendental swadharma, which is to serve Krishna, and that's where we're here. So if we deviate from our prescribed situation in this world, then where do we stand? That conditional swadharma is to try to help us to come from where we are to the proper platform. So if we deny that, then what chance do we have? Of course, in Kali Yuga, it's very hard. There is no such Vedic system facilitating, practically speaking. It's very hard. People don't know. Varna Shankara is the norm in this age, more or less. People don't know what they should do, what will make them happy. Even if they do, they can't do it. It's a very difficult age. Very hard. I mean, one day, even devotees say, one day I wake up, I think I should take sannyas. And later that morning, hey, maybe I should get married. Brahmachari life, that's what I should do. I should become a brahmachari. Oh, damn it, I'm just going to get out of here and go back to karmi life. That happens in one day sometimes in those lives practically. At least in the male, I don't know what the girls were thinking. We're not always so clear and sure where we're going or what we're doing. It's a Varna Shankara society. So Krishna said at least the real dharma for this age is the chanting of the holy name. That we should never give up. Even if the other conditional activities are a little confusing sometimes. Chanting we should never give up. We may have some problems on other levels, but keep chanting Hare Krishna. And of course, if we're fortunate that we have some clear service and we're steady in that service, that's all the better. All the better. Srila Prabhupada wanted us to become steady. Steady at least in our sadhana. Yeah. We have regulated practices meant for the release of the living entity. They're called prasadamadigatchati, they're regular principles of freedom. The Lord has given us these principles of freedom. Bhagavad Gita is not just a certain type of activity, it's the consciousness, developing a consciousness in which we act also. These are foundations in this chapter, this point. Basic foundations to try to instigate or try to encourage Arjuna to fight, not to give up his duty. We also have to employ sometimes encouraging methodology, like we mentioned earlier, like a child giving medicine inside of a sugar candy, to try to encourage us, to move along, preach, whatever it is, practice Krishna consciousness. Where we also get weak-hearted sometimes. And nice things. Prabhupada gave very nice prasadam. We had our, and maybe still there, the ISKCON bullets, the gula bucket. And there was, I saw in London when I first came, I noticed nobody would leave the temple on Friday, Saturday or Sunday. Nobody would bloop on Friday, Saturday or Sunday. Monday was bloop day, if anyone was going to bloop. It was Monday. They were too intoxicated to leave on Sunday from the Prashadam. So Monday was the day when she sobered up from the Sunday feast if you were going to leave. It was Monday. Highest bloop rate was on Monday. Don't think it's so noted now, but it was like a bit like that in the earlier days. So many ways, and of course we have maybe a little austere living in this world sometimes and trying to be a devotee. So many wonderful things, and after all, when we face it, we didn't come to the Krishna conscious movement because we are relishing the highest pleasure in the material world, at least not usually. Usually we've already had some experience of the, let's say, not so favorable aspects of material life. We're looking for something higher. Or we're seeing the misery around us, the suffering of others, or the exploitation of the world. Whatever it is that inspires us, but we've come here to Krishna consciousness knowing, or at least having some faith, that there's something more to life than just material life. So to go away from that would be a great loss. Great loss. Even as a little austere, it certainly wasn't easy for Arjuna to fight on the battle, but after hearing Bhagavad Gita, he became convinced. Similarly, after we study Bhagavad Gita very carefully together, try to understand how it applies to us, practical application. This is the essence of hearing the Gita, is to get the realization of our position, our duty in life, goal of life, and how to attain it. We should try to take this opportunity. Who knows how many lives we spent, countless lifetimes trying to enjoy this material world, at least one lifetime. Try to dedicate, to try to attain spiritual perfection. At least that much we can do. So we're on the stage. Prabhupada gives the example sometimes of a girl in Bengal. Prabhupada born up in Bengal. Sometimes the young girls would dance on stage. It's not the thing a respectable girl does, but sometimes it's there. They have on the stage you have to dance. You can't veil yourself or leave the stage once you're on there. You've got to do it. You've got to dance. And even if your family members are there, even if whatever's there, you've got to do your duty on the stage. So in one sense we're on the stage. At least we're on the stagecoach back to Godhead, so don't get off. I remember when we were kids we used to go on boats sometimes to islands off the coast of England. And I used to get so sick because it was so rocky, the waves. I didn't know as a kid. Didn't know what the cause was. I thought the boat was the cause. So I always used to be trying to jump off. I'd be screaming, Mother, I want to get off the boat. She wouldn't let me jump. I was feeling so sick. But you jump into the ocean again. It ain't going to be no more pleasant than before, that's for sure. The rocking is because, there's still some contact with the material world. Still there, we just have to purify ourselves and transcend it. If you're transcendental to the ocean, you don't feel the effects of the waves. They may be big waves, but you won't feel it. Or you can give another example. You have to enter deeply into the ocean, and fish deep down in the ocean don't care about the waves on the surface, nor about the fishermen. You have to get into Krishna consciousness deeply, and you may be protected. And we may be thinking of sometimes, within this material world. I remember Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj one time he discussed in one of his books about how, one may be famous in this world. What is the use of fame amongst the infamous? Who cares about being famous in this world, really speaking? Again, it's Krishna using this as a tool to try to get Arjuna to do his duty, but really, who cares about fame or infamy? What difference does it make, really speaking? There's no real significance. A few human beings in this world, and names may last for a while, but what's the meaning in the long run? no value. The real fame is to become a devotee of the Lord. Ramananda Roy answered Lord Chaitanya. I was asking Ramananda Roy these questions. He said, one who is a devotee of the Lord, he's the only one really famed, one who worships Radha and Krishna. That's the real famous person. That is the real eternal fame. Not this material fame of trying to be seen as a good person, as somebody who acts properly. I mean, that may be there too. The two could go together and should go together. But the goal of the material one is not the ultimate goal. It may serve the ultimate goal, which is to please Krishna, or to become Krishna conscious. The same thing with Vedic society. It's basically speaking, it's like in the 4th chapter, Prabhupada describes all the different sacrifices a person may perform are only so much material endeavor if they don't lead to Krishna consciousness. They have no real value. Shrama evi kevalam. The whole thing is to become Krishna conscious, to provide a facility or a situation to favor the awakening of Krishna consciousness. Okay, it's time to finish. Are there any questions? Hare Prabhu? Oh, pardon? People may not need the mic. It's small. I wouldn't use the mic. It's only because it's there. I speak twice as loud as the mic when I don't have it.
Hare Krishna. You mentioned about duties according to one's nature. Regarding that, I've been asked this question a few times. That parents send their children to Gurukul, or young devotees become disciples of the spiritual master. In both cases, sometimes both the child and the parents are wondering if the Guru will help them understand their modes of nature, what are their duties according to that nature. And the question I've been asked is, do we fulfill that? We speak on it in the Bhagavad Gita, but do we actually? Spiritual masters and gurukuls.
Did everyone catch the question?
Yes.
Well, that's, as you say, that's the philosophy. It's supposed to be the practice. It is something which I think there's a lot of awareness of amongst at least senior devotees of the need or the shortcomings, you could say, for sure. And when our experience, for instance, when we first came, and perhaps still is you're kind of coming in not really with much experience at the helm, not much experience on our own self either. And it's quite you kind of go into a general sort of a situation as now it's grown, it's expanded, there's a large community of devotees now with, you could say, a broader cross-section of engagements, a broader cross-section of different types of individuals at different ages, with different experiences. When we joined, there was no such thing. It was all or nothing, basically. There was only two activities, basically. And after many years, you tend, you could say, the Vedic system, which is really a system which has a very, before even the birth, a very purifying, arrangement. So it makes it a lot clearer for the child and for others to ascertain the situation. We're coming from a very confusing background, at least in the Western world particularly, so we say. And most of it didn't have a clue as to what we really would be doing in our lives, basically. So it's kind of like, that's the beginning. And there's, after years, if one actually becomes a little purified, it usually becomes a little clearer. because the false ego gets in the way. But usually it becomes a little clearer as to what, the more appropriate thing to do with what we've been given by the Lord in the situation we're in. It becomes a little clearer usually. Now for children, which is your specific question, I believe, or young devotees who come, what is the situation now? Are we fulfilling that? I would say we're more aware, I don't say me, but as a movement, more aware of the need of this, whether we're able to facilitate it or not with our present situation. We tend sometimes to be, at least my experience, is still a little bit oriented on this style that was, or let's say the situation was there in the very beginning of our movement. You just do the needful and, whether you fit or don't fit. It's kind of a temple management, leadership kind of oriented structure. Not so broad. Gurukul, well, it depends how you define Gurukul, I suppose. If we're talking about the Gurukul as it was during Prabhupada's time, certainly that is one of their duties, whether we're qualified to do it or not. There are parameters to ascertain these things. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has described quite a few of them, Chaitanya Shikshamrita, how we ascertain a child's proclivities. Many of the more experienced devotees in Gurukul have got some ideas on these things, some understanding, some direction. Gurukuls are traditionally meant for Brahminical children. They're not really meant for most children. Real Gurukuls. It's a very difficult situation because we're also faced with the world around us, which has certain demands and certain rules and regulations which have to be abided by, naturally. I think we've got a long way to go, and it's exciting to, in one sense, you can say it's dangerous on another side, but it's a great challenge to develop that Prabhupada wanted. Varna Ashram, he spoke about it a lot in his later lectures and talks, no doubt about that. Talked a lot about these things, simple living, high thinking, and Varna Ashram and so on. It still seems to be, we're a little bit short of a mark there. Obviously that should be our duty to ascertain what is suitable for a certain person so that they can become materially and spiritually enlightened, so that their material activities support their spiritual development. They won't become unduly disturbed in society. Happy in their married life. There's such a thing as being happy in married life, at least as best as possible. And in one's occupation too, so that one is stable, steady as much as possible. But yeah, we have probably a little way to go. There's definitely some progress is there. We've broadened out a little bit. We have large communities now. And I'm sure it'll happen slowly. It may take a little while. Slowly happening. Maybe next generation will have a little bit more experience. And see, we try our best now to try to ascertain that. One of the keys is to know where oneself stands, if one is rightly situated, and one is happy in one's own activity, then it's a little easier to encourage others in what they're doing, or what they should be doing, or what would be best for them to do. But it's true. Modern day education doesn't really aim at that particularly, to a certain degree. You find what you're more inclined or expert at to a certain extent, but to a larger extent it's kind of like a shotgun style. Give everybody the whole lot and see what comes out. There's not very much, specific training according to nature in most cases. There isn't some. But, you do have a way to go. Parvati. Yes.
May I ask a question, Babaji?
No, go ahead.
Are you asking or someone else asking?
No, well, it had to do with this question. I don't know if you got another question.
Yeah.
I have another question.
Okay.
It's a big topic. It's been discussed for decades and almost put to the back in the background in many cases. It's a very big and relevant topic.
Srila Prabhupada handled it in a variety of ways, even amongst the older devotees. I remember one incident which was described by Brahmananda Prabhu, that he came back after getting some donations from New York, down wherever he was, whatever he was distributing. Maybe it was Gargamoni's Xerox mimeographed copies of the Bhakti Godhead. And he went up to Prabhupada's room and put the money on the table. And Prabhupada said, "This is what it means to be brahmachari. Whatever you do, you bring to your spiritual master." So in that way, he was indicating that whatever you do, you offer for the pleasure of the spiritual master. So not everybody will have the same nature. And not everybody will be able to engage people or pigeonhole them according to their psychophysical nature, because we come from such a mixed up background. But I have seen some devotees, Urmila Prabhu comes to mind, who can pinpoint exactly what the nature of the child is. And I'm sure there are others, very few, but there are devotees who seem to be able to understand what the actual psychophysical nature is. I can't tell even from my own kids. I can't figure it out, basically speaking. It takes a certain category of devotee. I suppose it's Brahminically minded, who can understand because they have a firm mind and they can pick it out without being confused. But that's one of the problems, is that we don't have people who are designed or educated. I don't even know if it's a matter of being, I don't know if you can be educated for that. I think you have to have that kind of nature to be able to do it.
It's not it's not even a one-man job in many cases.
It takes a community to raise a child.
You've also got to have a structure, which facilitates that nature. We sometimes don't, you expect the children to do the same thing, everyone to be the same, everyone's got to have the same kind of a sadhana, everything the same. It may not work. An example of that is like, just in married life, for instance, it's not just a question of the parents. There's a matchmaker who watches the children from 3 years old and watches, how they move, what they do, how they vibrate with other girls and boys at that age. They watch them for years. Then they approach the parents secretly and discuss it individually. Then they connect with the astrologers, who then analyze it very carefully. Then it goes through a whole team of careful attention to see what is the nature or the best situation of the child. It's interesting you mentioned there, because I remember when I was staying in New Govardhan in Australia for a long time, 20 or more years ago. And at that time, I was just basically just there. I wasn't taking it. But we started a community newsletter. And there was no one really to help. But the Gurukul children, Gurukul there, school, not Gurukul really, but the school, they would come down. Many of the boys and girls would come down to help after school. And it was fascinating to watch their reaction to this. You have to have a test. And the test is not necessarily sitting down a mathematics test or an English test or geography test, but a test of their behavior. And that's what really counts, their behavior, not so much whether they know this or that. And it was fascinating to see how they reacted. And one boy, and his mother was a businesswoman, straight away he said, well, what am I going to get for this? Straight away. Another boy said, just tell me what to do. I don't know, just tell me. I'll do whatever you say, just tell me. Boom, boom, boom. Another boy said, can I take charge for this? Can I be in charge of this department? They all had different reactions to the same thing. It was interesting, even the 8, 9-year-old kids, they're already showing direction there. That's one way you can test. if you haven't got the, extrasensory perception or whatever it takes to analyze it. You can see by tests, and that's what Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes. The tests have to be, not this theoretical test, but a practical test of their proclivities and what they're naturally inclined towards. The kid likes to watch people, drilling holes in the road. And it's fascinated. Another kid's fascinated by whatever it is, different things, you see. It's confusing now because in Vedic society it was very simple, relatively speaking. Now there's 1,000,001 things cropping up, 100,000 different university courses are there. We only had about 20 or 30 courses when I went to university. They never heard of all these things that they have to do nowadays. So they made up all these weird things, what they are. It's quite confusing. But to a certain extent you can see like that. But then what you're going to do anyway, sometimes it's not possible for them to actually follow through on it practically. It's a real challenge. Why Prabhupada wanted to have a society where we can provide, not just Brahminical lifestyle, but a whole, society. It's an international society. It's not an international temple for Krishna consciousness. It's a society means everything. Farmers, bakers, bankers, policemen, everything.
Artists.
Pardon?
Artists. Artists.
Everything. Everything. It's not just, temple and what fits the temple, expectations. It's everything in society. The vast majority, let's face it, Arjuna, Bhima, Yudhishthira, if they came to ISKCON today, they'd be told, sorry mate, you can't stay. You're not up to standard. Right? You don't follow the 4 regulated principles, you don't chant 16 rounds, off you go. You can do what you like. But, this society has Bhagavad Gita spoken to Arjuna. There's many things, and we're still a little way to go, I suppose. Well, it's exciting, maybe, whatever Krishna's plans are. Whether it's to be or not to be, but it is a difficult thing to find that exactly. You can be a big part of it because you were a very conscientious and thoughtful person in this regards. There's this pressure from society, pressure from communication, media, which almost pushes people in different directions and make you feel bad about being what you want to be. I've seen some kids, they say, oh, what do you want to be? I just want to be a dustman. A dustman or something like that. No, nonsense, don't talk nonsense like that. My parents used to say that to me, if I said what I wanted to be, they don't talk such nonsense. You've got to be a doctor, you've got to be a this, that. The pressure on, which is kind of up against the grain. Sometimes amongst us we also think my child should be a Raya Vishnu, he should be a pure devotee, a Mahabhagavat. Nice it is. Can't make it happen. Encourage them accordingly to their passion or their initiative to try to do that for Krishna. Any other comments? Questions?
Thank you so much. Thank you for a nice class. During the class you mentioned a devotee who's confused about his ashram, and it happens to be an anartha, where he's not sure. It happens to be an anartha, where he is confused. So if a devotee is facing such an anartha, how can he overcome it?
Yeah, well, I guess how do we overcome any clouds? How do we have to, somehow the sun has to shine. At least somebody has to direct us towards the sun, some direction maybe. I know when I was a long time ago, when I was thinking of changing ashram, brahmacharyas, getting married, I asked 20 devotees and 6 GBCs and 8 sannyasis and 16 grihastas. I got 20 different answers. Kind of, depends how many categories you want to divide in, but they're all somewhat different, mixed. Yes, it is sometimes not so clear. Of course, if you have any clear intelligence, it becomes easy. And if you have, like Arjuna was bewildered, clouded over, and Krishna gave him clarification. It's easy to say, chant the rounds nicely, study the books, follow what your spiritual master says. Exactly, these things are there, and in principle they're correct. But oftentimes we have a few lessons to learn. Coming from, as Parvati Master said, a very messed up background, Varnashankara backgrounds in most cases, and it's not so clear. And many of us have not followed a very, let's say, first-class upbringing as youth. I mean, I don't know about yourselves, but if the generation I was in, if you hadn't had sex by the time you were 14, there was something wrong with you. Completely wrong. And it was like a daily affair. It wasn't like, once in a blue moon. It's a different, it has its effect. It makes things a little cloudy. So it's a little difficult to get out of that. By the grace of the Lord and the grace of the devotees, I will see it that even we go through these things. If it was actually sincere, it's what, it's like almost the lessons we need to learn. Krishna doesn't. It's not like, you're fighting without Krishna's in the heart. Krishna's with us. He wants us to go back to Godhead. He's, you can say, allowing situations to happen, but at the same time, he's got, he's making arrangements so that we can actually surrender to him. Whether, we're married, this and work and this and that. Of course, there's all sorts of things that people do now. Can't do. Astrology is their compatibility. We take advice. We may have complete faith in our spiritual master and take direction from the Diksha or Siksha Guru or parents. Tradition is the parents who arrange these things. It's not the Guru. Not the, they may bless to get married, knowing that that's your propensity, or that's a propensity, but that's your nature. That they may do if you actually are in a Gurukul. It's really the parents who traditionally arrange these things. Now it's not so much the parents. And it's difficult. We've seen temple presidents trying to do this in the past. Now not many temple presidents would dare try to do this. Experience has proven, difficult in many cases. It is this teamwork. We've got to be a little bit considerate and try to work together and take good advice as we can. There's a lot of mature, experienced grihastas. There's a lot of senior devotees. When devotees ask me, I direct them towards, generally speaking, towards senior grihastas, especially those who have some more experience in, let's say, the natures and dealings of compatibility and all these things. And their role is, may not be perfect, but it's their duty. Even every endeavor is covered by fault, but we should still perform our particular duties. Not that the spiritual master necessarily is going to cover everything. But every devotee has a role of spiritual master in some ways to try to be expert according to our tendency or proclivity and try to share that with others. And Krishna's not going to let you go off the hook, don't worry. He's in the heart, he's directing. And you try your best to make the right decision. Check yourself what your motivations are. Yeah. And there's so many things you can say on these points. But it's almost like it comes down to your own heart. Anything else on that point? You'll come out of the clouds eventually. We're in the clouds right now. There's 3 or 4 days of clouds. Eventually the sun will shine. You'll come out again. Just keep going. Anything else on ascertaining these, making this decision on married life or not married life or whatever it may be? Some of you are married, some of you are not. Some of you have been married, some are not married. Now we have a lot of experience. I think the experience we get is also something, it may be not complete, but something we can share and something with like-minded devotees. Anything else?
I have, but only, but different topic. Very different.
That's the microphone.
I tried my English.
You're doing fine. Ishwar Chandra, Slovakia.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I want to ask why Arjuna can reach only heavenly planet. Why only?
Why Arjuna can only reach the heaven?
Why the Krishna said to him, because Arjuna is pure devotee,
Yeah.
no?
Okay. As we heard earlier on, Arjuna is taking the part. He's like taking the part like an instrument for Krishna to instruct people in general. So Krishna, as I mentioned in the beginning, this section is dealing with primarily karma. Karma is proper activity within the material world according to scripture. So this is the foundation for human life. Before we can start talking about spirituality, there has to be a certain degree of humanity. So it's for other people that Krishna is especially saying that if you perform your duty properly, your prescribed duty, even if you're killed, you'll go to heaven. And if you win, you'll enjoy the kingdom on this planet. So that from the material point of view, most people are materialistic. So it's to help them to become convinced to perform their prescribed duties. If you said, if you perform your prescribed duty, you're going to die and go to hell, it wouldn't encourage people to perform their prescribed duty. It's true, but they will also. This is the system. If you perform your duty properly, it doesn't mean just anything like nowadays, but if it's actually your duty, according to scripture, according to your nature, properly, then you have a good chance you'll go to heaven. If you die whilst performing your duty. So it's for other people. It's interesting. It's not that Arjuna's destiny is to go to heaven. He's just using this argument. Arjuna's raised the doubt, and Krishna is now trying to defeat the doubts. The doubts which Arjuna raising are the doubts of a conditioned soul. So to raise a conditioned soul to transcendence, it's a step-by-step process. First of all, to bring them to the human platform, and then to the platform, the whole description, Rupa Goswami's instructions for Chaitanya, about the divisions of human society, civilized humans, uncivilized humans. Within the civilized society, some are following prescribed duties, some not. All different levels are there. And so it's to try to, it's just one step on the path to help elevate conditioned souls.
Do you want to pass that microphone?
As you say, Arjuna represents us. We have the problem, and the future of humanity has the problem, and that's why Arjuna is being instructed in such a way. Arjuna is an eternal companion of Krishna. Wherever Krishna goes, Arjuna comes up and he's always with him. He's not going to end up in the heavenly planets. He's only describing this because he's trying to describe his duty. Arjuna only, if he ends up in the heavenly planets, he comes back at will. He goes at will and he comes back at will. The instruction is by Krishna, just the instruction is for us, not for him. He's made him in such a position that, what did you say, you teach the, I think you said it, you teach the daughter-in-law by teaching by instructing the daughter. So that's why Krishna said you'll end up in the heavenly planets at least if you fight. That's just a kind of a practical way of expressing it so that the people get the message.
Yeah.
Hopefully they get the message.
Thank you.
Prabhupada also described in regards to this topic basically that, well, you did mention, I think earlier on, it's like a medicine inside of a sugar capsule or a sweet. To try to encourage people to follow prescribed duties, encourage them to follow the Vedic lifestyle, so that they at least don't lose the opportunity of this human form of life just for sense gratification, because following one's prescribed duty includes worship of Lord Vishnu. You can't avoid it. So they get that benefit there to some degree. But that's not our goal. To go to heaven. It's not our goal to enjoy a kingdom in this world either. And although it says down the road there on one of the big billboards, enjoy like a king in the kingdom of God or something. You seen that big billboards on the road here? Enjoy like a king, it says, in the kingdom of God. That's what it's coming to. This is people's understanding of it. Vrindavan now, enjoy like a king. The kingdom of God. What to do?
Very wrong.
Excuse me?
Very wrong.
Well, yeah, they've got it a little bit wrong. But again, if people come here and they get the association of devotees, they'll still get some benefit, of course, great benefit. Someone ought to bring them here and preach to them, give them the opportunity to chant and hear from pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada. Get some benefit. Don't worry. Don't worry. Your destiny is beyond the heavenly planets if you carry on distributing Prabhupada's books. And if you do go to the heavenly planets, then Arjuna will be there to take you on to the spiritual world. Don't worry. He'll come and get you. Yeah, he's not an ordinary conditioned soul. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Goswami.
Jai.